They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Suge is coming!
Suge had an apartment full of producers. And he gathered them all up and said, look, either y'all start producing some hits or I'm gonna start producing some hits.
Suge Knight sits behind bars for a 2015 killing, but just hearing his name still sends chills down people's spines. He built his reputation as the most ruthless and violent force the rap game has ever seen, crushing anyone who dared stand in his way. Some people managed to survive their battles with him and live to tell the tale, but for others, crossing Suge Knight was the absolute final mistake they ever made. Today, we're diving deep into all the insane drama that turned Suge Knight into his enemy's worst nightmare. We're talking about the beefs that shook the entire industry, the threats that had grown men running scared, and the violence that changed hip-hop forever. Let's jump right in. Suge didn't just go after people one-on-one. He transformed the entire rap industry into an all-out battlefield by igniting the legendary East Coast versus West Coast war that would claim multiple lives. He founded Death Row Records back in 1991, and just a couple years later, Diddy launched Bad Boy Records on the East Coast with Biggie Smalls as his crown jewel. Initially, Pac and Biggie shared genuine love and respect for each other as artists and friends, but everything shattered the night Pac got robbed and shot 5 times at Quad Studios in New York. Diddy and Biggie were allegedly upstairs in the same building recording while Pac was getting attacked in the lobby downstairs. After the ambush went down, Pac accused both of them of orchestrating the entire setup to rob him of his jewelry and money. Pac got locked up immediately after the incident on unrelated charges, and while he was rotting in jail feeling betrayed, Biggie dropped his track Who Shot Ya with lyrics that cut deep. The song said things like separating the weak from the obsolete, creeping through Brooklyn streets, and warning about getting Swiss cheesed up with one false move. Biggie always claimed the track wasn't aimed at Pac and was actually recorded before the shooting, but Pac took it as a direct personal attack and felt completely betrayed by someone he considered a friend. He later said that even if the song wasn't about him, Biggie shouldn't have released it because of how it would obviously look to everyone watching the situation unfold. Kirk Burroughs, the former president of Bad Boy Records, revealed that Diddy actually wanted Pac and Biggie to start beefing because the controversy would boost record sales and create massive publicity for the label. While Pac was still locked up feeling abandoned, Suge flew out to visit him and signed him to Death Row Records for a reported $1.4 million bail. And from that moment forward, Suge and Pac declared all-out war on Biggie, Diddy, and the entire East Coast. Diddy had this reputation for jumping into his artists' music videos to dance and promote himself, always finding ways to keep his face in the spotlight. At the 1995 Source Awards in New York, Suge grabbed the mic during his acceptance speech and completely dissed him in front of the entire industry, cameras rolling and everyone watching.
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
After Suge humiliated Diddy on that massive stage in his own city, there was absolutely no turning back from the conflict. Just 1 month later, in August 1995, the beef escalated from words to actual violence. Suge and Diddy crossed paths at Jermaine Dupri's birthday party in Atlanta, and nobody knows the exact details of what sparked it, but their crews got into a brutal fight that spilled into the parking lot. Suge's homie Big Jake ended up getting shot and killed right outside the party in the chaos. According to rapper Keith Murray, who was there that night, Suge actually windmill slapped Diddy during the party confrontation too, completely disrespecting him.
Then all of a sudden I saw Suge. Pow! Smack the dog out of Puff.
This all happened before everyone carried phones in their pockets to record everything, so there's no footage to verify the story and separate fact from fiction. But it's definitely not the only tale about Suge putting his hands on major industry figures. Everyone knows the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry eventually led to both Pac and Biggie getting tragically murdered in drive-by shootings just months apart, and rumors swirl that Suge orchestrated Biggie's assassination as revenge. Detective Greg Kading, who investigated both murders extensively for years, claims that Suge hired a Mob Piru affiliate named Poochie Faust to kill Biggie in Los Angeles. But by the time Kading connected Poochie to the shooting through witness testimony, Poochie had already been shot and killed himself in a completely separate incident. Suge will probably never face charges in connection with Biggie's death due to lack of physical evidence, but if he hadn't declared war against Diddy and the entire East Coast rap scene, both Biggie and Pac would probably still be alive making music today. When Suge linked up with Dr. Dre to start Death Row Records in 1991, nobody expected them to dominate the industry like they did. Dre dropped The Chronic in 1992 and completely revolutionized the entire West Coast sound with his G-Funk production style. Then they brought in Snoop Dogg and took things to an even higher level of success and cultural impact. At their absolute peak in the mid-90s, they were pulling in over $300 million annually and had the hottest artists in the game, but the good times couldn't last forever. Dre eventually had a falling out with Suge in 1996, even though they were running the whole game together and making incredible money. It wasn't some explosive fight or anything dramatic that happened overnight, but Dre didn't like the direction the label was headed with all the violence and chaos. Dre prefers to lock himself in the studio and perfect tracks for weeks or even months at a time, but Death Row operated like a non-stop party with constant drama and distractions. So Dre left to start his Aftermath label, and that's when Suge and Pac turned their sights on him and started attacking him publicly. Suge and Pac started spreading all kinds of vicious rumors about Dre throughout the industry, questioning his credibility and street credentials. Then Pac took things to another level when he aired Dre out on the track Toss It Up, with lyrics questioning Dre's sexuality, calling him forgotten and rotten, and warning him about the consequences of leaving Death Row. The song came out posthumously after Pac died, so Dre never got the chance to respond directly to the disrespect, but that wasn't the end of his ongoing beef with Suge. In 2016, Suge claimed during an interview that Dre tried to have him assassinated and owed him $900 million from his massive deal with Apple when they bought Beats. Before Suge got booked for killing his homie Terry Carter in a hit-and-run incident, he survived getting shot 6 times at a party hosted by Chris Brown at a Los Angeles nightclub. According to street rumors that spread quickly, Dre put out a hit on Suge so he wouldn't have to pay him the money he claimed he was owed. But there's zero concrete evidence backing up this wild story, and nobody was ever arrested for the shooting that nearly killed Suge. Suge barely survived that brutal attack where bullets struck him multiple times, and that's not the only time his beef with Dre allegedly almost got him killed. When Dre signed Eminem to Aftermath in 1998, it transformed the entire rap landscape and brought hip-hop to a massive new audience. A lot of people refused to give Eminem any respect at first because he was a white dude from Detroit trying to make it as a rapper in a predominantly black art form. But Dre saw the raw potential and incredible talent and helped launch one of the biggest careers in the entire industry. Suge watched all their success with Eminem selling millions of records and wasn't happy about it whatsoever. According to Eminem's bodyguard Big Nas, Suge tried to take Eminem out on 2 completely separate occasions. The first time happened at the Source Awards when tensions were already high. And
the bodyguards could not sit with their artists.
Eminem got surrounded by a whole crew of Death Row affiliates who were posted up and ready to make a move. Nas managed to get Eminem out of that dangerous situation before anything violent popped off, but Suge wasn't finished with his intimidation tactics yet. Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Dre all planned a vacation to Hawaii to relax and get away from the LA drama. But instead of relaxing on the beach and enjoying paradise, they almost got taken out by 50 of Suge's goons who flew out there specifically to confront them. Suge had an entire crew waiting for them to land at the airport, and when they touched down in Honolulu, the local police got wind of the potential threat and dispatched 20 cops just to keep them safe from harm. Nas said,
it goes from, we're in Hawaii, we're gonna have a nice time, we're going shopping, coconut drinks, and all this other shit, to, oh shit, they're putting on bulletproof vests, loading guns.
Luckily, nothing serious went down, and everyone made it back to LA safely. But Eminem isn't the only Aftermath artist that Suge pressed and tried to intimidate. After 50 Cent signed with Dre and started blowing up with his debut album, Suge rolled up with 30 dudes while they were shooting the video for the massive hit In the Club. According to Bizarre from the Detroit rap group D12, everyone on set was freaking out when Suge came through with his entire crew.
We was at the In the Club video shoot, Game, 50, everybody was there. I just heard somebody say, Suge Knight's here. And I looked and Suge was there. And but he had some essays with him though. You know what I'm saying? He all essays. And he looked at Fifth, and Fifth was like, what's up? What's up?
Eminem allegedly came out rocking a bulletproof vest under his clothes and was mentally ready to throw down too if things got physical. But Suge just calmly signaled to his goons that it was time to leave, and they all departed without saying a single word or causing any violence. Pulling up on 50 Cent when he was the absolute hottest rapper in the game with the #1 song in the country proves that Suge wasn't afraid to beef with anyone regardless of their status. But that's nothing compared to what went down with his next target. Dre and Suge wanted to link up and create Death Row together back in the early 90s. But there was one major obstacle standing in their way, blocking the whole plan. Eazy-E had Dre locked into a restrictive contract after NWA started falling apart because Dre thought Eazy and his manager Jerry Heller were stealing money and not paying him fairly. Dre wanted out of his contract desperately so he could pursue his own vision, but Eazy didn't want to just let him walk away and lose his meal ticket. That's when Dre brought Suge in to handle the situation and apply some serious pressure. According to rumors that spread throughout the industry, Suge and his goons rolled up on Eazy at a recording studio in Calabasas and told him to release Dre from his contract immediately. Eazy wasn't backing down at first because he didn't want to look weak, but then Suge told him he already kidnapped Jerry Heller and was holding him hostage at an undisclosed location. The Straight Outta Compton movie showed Suge putting hands on Eazy and physically threatening him, but there are tons of different conflicting stories about what really went down that day. One version claims that Eazy wouldn't sign the release papers even after Suge said he kidnapped Heller, but he changed his mind real quick after Suge showed him a slip of paper with Eazy's mother's home address written on it in a clear threat. It's not entirely clear exactly how it happened or what was said, but Eazy eventually signed Dre's contract release and freed him from Ruthless Records, and the rest became music history. Jerry Heller said years later in interviews,
and Eazy said, you know this guy Suge Knight? I said, yeah. He says, well, I'm going to kill him. He said, this guy's going to be a problem, and I think I should kill him. I said, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I should have let him kill him.
Yeah.
You know, I would have done the world a favor. He would have done it for sure.
Dre allegedly sent one of the scariest and most intimidating dudes in the game to threaten his old homie from NWA, and this entire situation led to them sending vicious shots back and forth on diss tracks. With Dre Day, Dre aired him out with brutal lyrics about how the hoods Eazy grew up with don't even respect him anymore and how it was time for the doctor to check him. Eazy clapped back hard with real motherfucking G's and called out both Dre and Suge, saying Dre wasn't worth a food stamp and that at Death Row, he was getting treated like boot camp with Suge as his commanding officer. Unfortunately, Eazy died from complications related to HIV/AIDS in March 1995, just weeks after his diagnosis shocked the hip-hop world. And there's this wild conspiracy theory that Suge was actually involved with his death too through some kind of injection. In 2003, Suge went on Jimmy Kimmel Live and made some shocking statements that raised a lot of eyebrows.
See, technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
It was a shocking interview that still has people talking about it today and fueling conspiracy theories, but there's no solid, concrete evidence that Suge was really behind Eazy's death in any way. But even if we don't know exactly what happened between them in those final days, we definitely know that this next story proves how absolutely crazy and unpredictable Suge really was. When Vanilla Ice dropped Ice Ice Baby in 1990, it was like a bomb exploded throughout the entire music industry. It all started with one radio station in Georgia putting the track on rotation after a DJ found it, and within no time, it was allegedly selling 1 million copies every single day and climbing the charts. At the time, Suge was just getting into the music industry as a newcomer. He started out as a bodyguard for other artists like Bobby Brown, but then he realized that becoming a producer and manager was where all the real money was at. One night, Suge pulled up on Vanilla Ice while he was in LA at a restaurant with his bodyguards. Ice said Suge came in acting friendly at first, tossed his security out like they were nothing, then sat down directly across from him at the table in an intimidating power move. Suge just stared at him for what felt like forever without saying a word. Then he finally introduced himself real calm and asked how he was doing in a tone that was more threatening than friendly. After that initial encounter, Suge randomly started popping up wherever Ice was at around Los Angeles. Ice was starting to get genuinely scared because he knew Suge's reputation. Then one night when he went back to his room on the 15th floor of the luxurious Bel Age Hotel, Ice walked in and saw Suge and his goons already waiting for him inside. They put hands on Ice's team and roughed them up. Then Suge walked him out to the balcony and made him look over the edge at the ground far below. Rumors claim Suge held Ice by the ankles and dangled him over the balcony, threatening to drop him. But Ice said years later that never actually happened and was exaggerated. Instead, Suge just made him sign a massive stack of paperwork that transferred all the royalties from Ice Ice Baby over to Suge and his associate. Suge was managing an artist named Mario Johnson at the time, and Suge claims Johnson wrote the track's hook and that Ice never paid him fairly for it. Nobody really knows what went down in Ice's hotel room that night or what threats were made, but he ended up signing over a reported $4 million in royalties to Suge in what has to be one of the most profitable shakedowns in music history. Suge used that money to start Death Row Records, which means Vanilla Ice is actually responsible for funding one of the most legendary and influential rap labels of all time. Before Snoop signed with Death Row and helped Dre make The Chronic, he was in a crew with Nate Dogg and Dre's brother Warren G called 213. They were selling mixtapes out of their car on the streets of Long Beach, and eventually Warren G introduced Snoop to Dre at a house party. Dre and Suge wanted to sign Snoop immediately after hearing his unique flow and voice, but Warren G warned him to hire a lawyer before signing any contract because he knew how the industry worked. When Suge heard about what happened and that Warren was interfering, he rolled up on Warren G and aggressively pushed him against the wall. Suge asked him directly if he told Snoop not to sign that contract and was clearly angry. Having Suge in your face like that would make most people run for their lives in terror. But Warren G held it down and told him firmly that if he didn't get his hands off him immediately, he was calling his brother and all his homeboys from the neighborhood. Luckily, Warren didn't catch a beating or anything worse in that moment, but Suge still blackballed him from the label and wouldn't let him come on tour or be featured on any Death Row projects as punishment. Snoop signed with Suge, but he stayed loyal to Warren through the whole situation, and even Ghost wrote for him when he could. It didn't take long for Snoop to start beefing with Suge too, as the label's atmosphere got more toxic. After Snoop beat his murder charge in 1996, he realized he wanted to leave all the violence behind him and stop promoting the dangerous streets lifestyle. But at the same time, Suge just linked up with Pac, who had just gotten out of prison. They were going to war against everyone who wasn't rocking with them, especially Diddy and other dudes from the East Coast hip-hop scene. Pac and Snoop got close really fast and had great chemistry together, but everything changed after Snoop went on Hot 97 in New York and showed love to Diddy and Biggie during the interview. Snoop was trying to spread positivity and not get involved with the escalating drama, but the move almost cost him his life. After the radio interview aired, Snoop went back to the hotel where Suge, Pac, and other Death Row affiliates were staying. Everyone in the room just completely ignored him and gave him the cold shoulder. When they drove to the airport the next day to fly back to California, Suge wouldn't let Snoop ride with his security in the vehicle. Snoop knew that Suge was capable of absolutely anything and had allegedly ordered hits before. So when they got on the private plane back to LA, he grabbed a fork, a knife, and a blanket, then headed to the back of the plane so nobody could catch him from behind or surprise him. Snoop tried to talk to Pac when they landed to explain himself, but Pac ignored him again and walked right past him, and they went their separate ways without resolving anything. Before they could figure the situation out and squash the beef like grown men, Pac was shot and killed in Vegas on September 7, 1996, just a few days later. Pac's death turned the tension between Snoop and Suge into a full-on war with real danger. At one point, according to multiple sources, Suge allegedly even put a bag on Snoop's head as a hit order. Snoop clapped back with the song Pimp Slap, with brutal lyrics calling Suge out directly and comparing him to his wife. What's really crazy about the entire situation between Snoop and Suge is that it never actually got physically violent despite all the threats. Suge definitely isn't known for squashing beef peacefully with his enemies. But in 2005, he met with Snoop at a peace summit called Unify the West, and they've been cool and cordial ever since that meeting. Suge ended up having major issues with all of his main artists from Death Row at some point. Rumors say that he's actually the one behind Pac's murder too, which would be absolutely insane. After Suge bailed Pac out of jail, Pac ended his marriage to Keisha Morris and started dating Kidada Jones, creating a new chapter. Kidada is the daughter of Quincy Jones, who's an absolute legend in the music world with decades of success. Pac actually dissed Quincy in an interview with The Source magazine before meeting his daughter, making harsh comments about him that he later regretted. After Pac ran into Kidada at a club, they started talking and had instant chemistry, and it wasn't long before they were officially a couple and deeply in love. Quincy wasn't rocking with Pac at first after the disrespect, but then Pac squashed their beef face to face and allegedly wanted to sign with Quincy's label after leaving Death Row. According to rumors from people close to the situation, Pac wanted out of Death Row as fast as possible, and that's why he recorded so much music after getting out of jail. His plan was allegedly to fulfill his 3-album contract with Death Row quickly, marry Kadada, and then sign with Quincy for his next chapter. But unfortunately, that's not how things went down in reality. Before he could escape the chaos and violence of Death Row, Pac went to Vegas with Suge to watch the Mike Tyson fight and ended up getting shot to death in the middle of the Strip in a drive-by shooting. Even though Suge got grazed by a bullet fragment too in the shooting, rumors say he knew about Pac's plan to leave and had him killed instead of letting him walk away from Death Row. Suge had already lost Dre and Snoop to other labels, and Pac leaving would have been the absolute final nail in the coffin for Death Row's dominance. Mos Def isn't known for beefing at all and usually stays positive. But even he called out Suge on stage back in 2005 over the Pac situation during a concert. While he was performing in LA, Mos Def grabbed the mic and demanded answers, asking who killed Pac and saying they fear nothing. Then after performing another track, he called Suge out again directly, demanding he tell everyone who did it and stop all the nonsense and rumors. We'll probably never know if Suge was really involved with Pac's death or not without a confession, but there's a reason why so many people close to Pac think his own homie had something to do with it. Suge took shots at all kinds of dudes during the war between the East Coast and West Coast. According to a dude named Spider Locke, who was affiliated with Death Row back in the late 90s, Suge went on Hot 97 in New York and dissed Brooklyn rapper Fabulous during an interview. Spider claims Suge said that
the new road, we looking for artists, we looking for this type of artistry, cool thug, not no Fabulous type. So he made a statement to that effect.
Even though Suge was one of the most powerful and feared dudes in the game at the time with major influence, Fabulous didn't back down and allegedly pulled up on him in LA to confront him face to face. According to Spider,
Fabulous got at him like, man, what's up with that shit you were saying on the radio?
Instead of turning it into a massive issue that could have gotten violent, Suge said,
who I thought Suge was, I was surprised to hear him say, oh, you know it ain't like that, we ain't talking about it's like you, ooh. And that's when the big two-way pages was out, the big gray buff ones. I remember he like called Eastwood over and told Eastwood to get Fabulous number and exchange numbers.
Suge squashing beef with an East Coast dude like that seems weird given his history, but Fabulous confirmed the story and backed it up. He said there was no cap, explaining they did speak about it in a man-to-man conversation and handled it respectfully. Today, Wack 100 is known for managing artists and ranting on Clubhouse about industry drama, but he's known Suge Knight for years and they have history. They were tight back in the day and ran in the same circles, but now they're sending shots back and forth publicly, and Suge thinks Wack is the reason he's serving a brutal 28-year sentence. Back in 2021, Wack went on DJ Academic's Off the Record show and aired Suge out for being a failure and not living up to his legacy. According to him,
I paid for this man mama's funeral, bro. I sent a motherfucking wire. Understand what I'm saying? At a time that we wasn't even talking and getting along.
But for some bizarre reason that Wack doesn't fully understand, Suge thinks Wack is the reason he got hit with the 28 years in prison. Wack admitted,
motherfuckers did this, motherfuckers did that, right? Gangster shit, right? Now let's be real. And I'm gonna speak on it because he been speaking. And I don't respect him no more.
Suge?
At all. Right? Not zero. You know what I mean? You can't respect the man. I paid for this man mama's funeral, bro.
Suge clapped back on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast and said he's gonna pull up on Wack whenever he gets out of prison to handle it. Then last year, Suge Knight's old homie Reggie Wright Jr. started leaking his jail calls to the public. In one leaked call, Suge allegedly aired Wack out and said,
that he's from the hub, but he ain't from the hub. So he uses, but he don't with nobody, you know?
Now the situation is getting even messier and more complicated because the game is hopping into the beef from nowhere. The game and Suge have gone back and forth a lot over the years with their relationship. On one track, the game dissed Suge with lyrics about him always being in and out of jail, trying to burn Snoop, stealing the Chronic from Dre, and blowing the whole West Coast money and reputation. Suge allegedly rolled up on the game with a bunch of goons after the track dropped to confront him. But then Suge's homie Wack started managing the game, creating an awkward dynamic. Suge and the game eventually squashed it though and put their differences aside, and the game even shouted Suge out on the track, Stainless, talking about how he went from wanting to be Suge to hating him to actually being cool with him and understanding him. But just a few weeks ago in recent developments, Wack called Suge out on Instagram and called him an accomplished failure who never reached his potential. In the caption, he even implied that Suge's son isn't really his biological child, which is incredibly disrespectful. Then out of nowhere, the game hopped in the comments and said he'll take a head-up fade fight with both of them on site. Nobody knows why the game suddenly has issues with Wack and Suge yet, or what triggered this new conflict, but this situation could get absolutely wild with these personalities involved. Tap in for updates as this story develops. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Suge Knight's most explosive beefs and made it all the way to the end, make sure you smash that like button. Drop a comment below telling us which beef shocked you the most and which story you think was the craziest. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Share this with anyone who needs to know the real story behind the death row chaos.